viewers. Today we are here to pick the brain of someone who has excelled to the top position in Citibank with her effort and hard work in building business through direct and indirect sales. She has held a number of senior roles in Asia Pacific Regional Office and Singapore before she was appointed Head of Retail Distribution for Citibank Australia. I, Sarah Chaturvedi, on the behalf of Australian Education Times, would like to welcome Vibha Coburn and discover her secrets to success and educational path. Hello Vibha.
Hi Sarah.
It's so nice to be talking to you today.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here.
Thanks. So, can you tell us about your journey to become Head of Retail Distribution, Citibank Australia?
Well, when I was at school, I did commerce, and I always thought I would like to do something in business. I wasn't entirely sure what I'd like to do, but I did something in business. And I fell into banking, and I held a few roles in banks and financial institutions and realized I really liked doing this. And after having worked in Asia Pacific, after having worked in Australia in a number of other roles, I've actually headed retail distribution for the last 6 to 8 months. Basically reaching out to customers who want to work with us through branches, through telephones, through online, as long as they want to talk to the bank. The people who actually work, there's about 300 people who work in this department who reach out and talk to those clients.
Cool, yeah. At what point did you realize that you wanted to pursue a career in finance, and what inspired you the most?
Well, I can tell you something, Sarah. I'm still trying to work out what I want to do when I grow up. So in terms of inspiration, when I started off, I fell into banking. It was just I met a friend and said, why don't you try this job? And I suddenly realized, I started off as a relationship manager, I realized I could actually work with people in making their dreams come true, in making their finances safe and sound. And that really put me on a high, and I thought, this is an industry for me, this is what I want to do with my life.
Well, I'm sure most of our viewers will be very inspired by that. Rising cost of education is adding financial burden on families and students. What tips do you have for our readers on money management and getting good education? Does Citibank have any products to help parents and students save money and assist in education?
If you say, I think when you're planning for your education, that is the first start, is actually understanding what your target needs to be. So say, you want to go to university, you've selected certain courses you might want to do, and you have an idea as to how much it would cost. It's actually working backwards and making sure you budget and save for that. So, in terms of banks, it's not only Citibank, but most banks would have regular savings plans, which means you deposit a certain amount every month in a separate account, which is just your education fund. Or depending on people's circumstances, if they wanted to borrow some money for it, so you'd also have certain sort of borrowing products which people could use for that.
I think that's very good advice. How do you plan and take decisions on right distribution strategy to deliver goods into hands of consumers in this competitive market? Do you think marketing should be included in the school curriculum?
So in terms of retail distribution, as I said before, we talk with clients. Banking is something which everyone needs, some sort of banking. Distribution strategy has to match with where people want to go. So it depends on whether you want to bank close to your home, close to where you work, close to where you travel through. And depending on those elements, we decide where we want to put branches, maybe have phone centers for people who want to bank at night. So strategy very much depends on what our customers want and when they want to talk to us. In terms of marketing in school, look, marketing is so wide. When I've got a son who's doing his year 12, so at least I know what's available in schools now. Business studies could have a component of marketing, in as much as it means being able to explain to people what this particular product or service does for you. That part of marketing, I think, would be quite useful. But ultimately, the educationals are the gurus in this one.
Interesting. During your career, what would you say has been your biggest challenge and how did you conquer it?
Challenge. Well, that's very interesting. It's when I think about it, I think the challenges were also opportunities. So I've been challenged and have had the great privilege of being able to work in different roles within banks, and I was in consulting for a while, so you go to different clients, and it's always scary when you start something new. So it's a challenge. You're always nervous because you feel, I don't know all the people, I don't know the whole job, will I do it well? So that challenge, but also gave me the opportunity to learn a lot more and really develop, you know, so I can do the next role and the next role. So it's been quite a ride. It's been quite a ride.
As you hold a position of great responsibility, what would be your advice to anyone who is hoping to become a leader of some sort?
Oh, that's interesting. So one of the first things I learned early on in life, and it was a couple of situations which made me realize this, that to be successful in business, you had to be successful with the people you work with and understand who they are. I mean, think of it, we've just had the World Cup, think of it like a soccer team. So we know all the players on one side, no, there is a common purpose and a common goal. There's that goalpost on the other side, and we have to get that ball through that net. So if you have a bunch of people you're working with, and all of you have that same kind of goal, and you know that you're not great at kicking a goal, but you're better at passing the ball to someone else, so understanding each other's strengths and working together to get that goal, I think that's what leadership is about ultimately.
I'm sure our viewers will take that to heart. What is your educational background and how has that helped with your career?
So I've got a couple of degrees in commerce and business administration. What it's let me do is work across industries, work with different types of roles because it gave me that flexibility. But it also organized my thinking a lot more, especially when it came to addressing problems or looking at issues, understanding how to meet some challenges. So it's been a good foundation to base my career on.
Okay. So you say that education is a big part of any leadership roles this big?
Well, education doesn't necessarily need to be the path I followed. So it doesn't need to be a couple of degrees, doesn't need to be administration. People have been educated through experiences, through travel, through exposure to different industries. And I think we all learn as we go along, so yes.
Yeah. Out of all of your achievements, which are you most proud of and why?
Oh look, I think what excites me most in business, and I think that's what I need to talk about, is when you do something and you get a response from your client which says, that was a great job, or can I give you some feedback? I'd like you to improve the services this way, because then you know they genuinely care for you. It's called tough love in our business. So, you know, when your customer comes to you and said, great job, or says, I could do something better, I find that quite exhilarating. It's a very happy experience.
Tell us about your experience and skills gained in your 22 years in the finance industry and how they have impacted on your career.
Okay, so I've worked in the finance industry both as a banker and as a consultant. So what's allowed me to do is go to different countries, work with different teams, work with different companies. And what that does do to you is you realize there's many different ways to see a particular problem or a particular opportunity. So it is a great way to work when your mind can be quite open because you've realized there's multiple ways of getting to the same goal. So that's been quite influential in my career.
Next one's a big one. What advice or words of wisdom would you give to any of our readers on career success and who are interested in a career in finance?
That's interesting. Like I said to you, I just fell into finance. I fell into banking. And it's almost, I was lucky that I discovered what I loved doing. And that was in the first 4 or 5 years out of uni. My advice is to be open-minded. Whenever people go into business, some people are very clear about what they want to do. As soon as they get out, and they get there and realize maybe that's not exactly, you know, what I thought it would be. So to have that open-mindedness, to explore, there's great opportunities out there, and even in finance and banking, it's a very large industry. You know, you might find your niche in particular areas, so try it and test it, and you know, you'll hit your straps in what you do best.
Thank you very much for talking to us, Vibha. I'm sure our readers and listeners will be very much inspired and motivated from your success story and advice. We'd like to thank you on the behalf of the Australian Education Times for your time today. We wish you all the best for your work and projects.
Thank you very much, Sarah. I've enjoyed this conversation.